Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFS Report. It is Tuesday, April the 8th. I hope everyone's having a fine Tuesday afternoon. We've got a 10-game slate on our hands this evening after a pretty fun 5-gamer yesterday. Zach, let's not waste any time. Let's dive right into tonight's big slate. We got the Columbus Blue Jackets hosting the Ottawa Senators. It'll be Elvis Merzlikins for the Blue Jackets, Anton Forsberg for the Senators. The Pittsburgh Penguins will be hosting the Chicago Blackhawks. It'll be Tristan Jarry versus Spencer Knight. The New Jersey Devils will likely go with Jacob Markstrom tonight. It'll be Jeremy Swayman for the Boston Bruins. You've got Sam Montembeault against Cam Talbot in a massive game for the last spot in the Eastern Conference wild card. You got Sergei Bobrovsky back in net for the Panthers, who will get a couple bodies back tonight. It'll be Joseph Woll for the Toronto Maple Leafs. James Reimer continues to play extremely well for the Buffalo Sabres. He'll go tonight against the Carolina Hurricanes, who will continue with their goaltending rotation, likely going to see Petr Chekhov for them. You've got Casey DeSmith in net for the Dallas Stars. It'll be Thatcher Demko for the Canucks. Justice Noonan gets another start for the Nashville Predators. It'll be Ilya Sorokin, most likely for the New York Islanders. Karel Vejmelka for the Utah Hockey Club. The Seattle Kraken projected to go with Philip Grubauer second half of back-to-back for them. They did call up a goalie this morning, though, so some weird stuff could be going on there. Could just be giving Joey Decord a full night off after quite a few starts in a row here. Scott Wedgwood confirmed to start for the Colorado Avalanche, likely going to see Akira Schmid for the Vegas Golden Knights. So both teams expected to go with their backup goalies in that one. Unlike last night, the last game tonight is at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. So this slate's going to be kind of coming at you quickly. A lot of games at the 7 o'clock lock. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 games at the 7 o'clock lock. A couple 8 p.m. games and a couple 9 p.m. games. So going to be coming at you fast and furious. Should be a really fun one. Zach, are you ready to dive in?
Let's do it, my man.
I mean, I guess we shouldn't bury the lead. Zach won a DFO head-to-head yesterday, so not dead yet. We keep saying he's not dead yet. He's officially dormied. He's down 8 with 8 shows to go. So can he tie it up and make us both do the 999 challenge? That would be the perfect outcome. But like I said previously, I do not think that I would make it through the 9 dogs. The 9 beers I don't think would be an issue. But the 9 dogs, I'm not built for that. So hopefully I can find one here in the next 8 shows and force you to do it solo. But I don't know. I'm a pretty good friend, so maybe I'll join you anyway. The Blue Jackets and the Ottawa Senators, massive game here for the Blue Jackets. They've struggled as of late, really struggling to find some offense lately. But they are still in a toss-up game here. It is a 3.1 implied total for both of these teams. Matchup-wise, not great. For the Blue Jackets. Second line's got a decent matchup. They've got some interesting new look lines tonight as well. We'll dive into those here in a second. Pretty good matchups for the Senators, mostly the middle six though. The Stutzla line, going up against the top line for the Blue Jackets. Bit of a defensive battle there with neither one of them having very good matchups. But as you see here, Columbus won. Really, really good offensive metrics. So let's just pull up the new Columbus line combinations. Boone Jenner is going to shift to the wing on the top line here with Sean Monahan and Kirill Marchenko. So totally new look line. Haven't seen them play together this year really at all. So we'll see how that goes. I kind of had to put a sample together one way or the other. And it grades out really well. The offensive metrics are good. We know Jenner's played really well since coming back. This is a team that's trying to find some offense, trying to stay alive here. And it'll be interesting to see how it works out. Going this route, it really gives them kind of one really good line. And then the depth kind of suffers a little bit. Van Riemsdyk, Fantilli, Ken Johnson haven't been all that, great together at 5v5. The metrics are pretty poor. Third and fourth line, not so much. So the good news for us is it kind of narrows down who we are going to be targeted for playing the Blue Jackets tonight. They both grade out. The problem is they both grade out really well defensively. That's Columbus 1 and Ottawa 1. They're going to be going head-to-head. So, again, not the best matchup overall there. The good matchups in this game really are on the Ottawa Senators side of things, specifically lines 2 and line 3. Ottawa 2, that Dylan Cousins, Drake Batherson, David Perron line, slightly above average offensive metrics, nothing outstanding, but the matchup's good. I think that they're in a pretty decent spot here. They obviously correlate in that top power play unit. That power play unit not in a great spot. The third line, you got Ridley Gregg, you got Shane Pinto there, not tremendous offensive metrics, but again, good matchup. So, I think there's some spots here to which you could probably target the Senators and the Blue Jackets in this game. I just don't know how much I'm honestly going to get to this game. It doesn't look like one that, it's hard to say, I guess. This game is one of those ones that feels like it could definitely get high scoring. It just doesn't, on paper, look like that's going to be the likely outcome tonight. When you take a look at the line stack rankings, Columbus 1 comes out 17th. That's the best line overall. This game not drawing a lot of ownership. So I think that I'm going to have some ownership on this game, especially in a 20 max, because it does feel like a game that could get there. I think it's just difficult to pinpoint exactly how it's going to get there on paper. What are your thoughts here tonight with the Blue Jackets and the Senators?
Yeah, I agree with you here. And I agree with the charts too. I think for me, like my interest in this game would be through Columbus 1 or Ottawa 1. This new look Columbus 1 line, their combined floor, so just taking the averages of all three of these guys' floors, grade out is like the fifth or the sixth best on the slate over their last 10 DraftKings games here. So they've been finding ways individually to be productive. I don't hate the look of this line together. I've been playing some Boone Jenner since he's been back from injury. Haven't gotten to him a ton here as of late. For me personally, I'm not sure how much ownership I'm going to have in this game, but I think if you were to go any route here, it'd probably be through Columbus 1 or it would be through Ottawa 2 for me. That second line with Dylan Cousins there, they've been great since Cousins has arrived. Like he's looked really sharp there, fitting in alongside David Perron and Drake Batherson. So, small amount of interest in this game here, but I think it's pretty easy to kind of target who you want to in this game through that top line of Columbus or that second line of the Senators.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly there. Those would be the two lines that I think I would have the most interest in as well. I think there's the other reason to kind of feel like you should get there or can get there is both these teams have struggled defensively at 5v5. So if the offense perks back up, which we expect it to, right? Like, I mean, both these teams scoring well below their expected goals for per 60 at 5v5 in their last 10 games. So I think, again, there's a pathway for this game to get high scoring. We've seen it with the Blue Jackets. We've seen it with the Senators at times this year, and they're really not that expensive, and the ownership is very modest. So, I mean, Boone Jenner, 5,900, Monahan, 5,500, Marchenko, 6,200, full stacking them at 17.6 is a nice price. I'm fine with that. Same thing goes with Ottawa, too. Perron is probably the one I would leave off, but Cousins at 55 and Batherson at 58, really nice price tags there. So I just want to pull up the DraftKings points per game here for all of these skaters. In this game specifically, Boone Jenner has really been the one leading the way as of late in terms of DraftKings points per game at $5,900. Monahan second among Blue Jackets forward. So again, kind of points to that being the line to target for them. And then same thing for Ottawa. Ottawa, 2 here with Batherson and Cousins, 2 of their top 4 highest scoring forwards. Pinto and Greg have been pretty good as of late as well. I just don't know if I trust them offensively quite as much, but they're fine if you want to get there. I just think that the price and the top power play unit exposure makes Ottawa 2 the much better line to target. Any final thoughts on this one before we move to game number 2?
No, let's move it along.
Let's get to the Pittsburgh Penguins and Chicago Blackhawks. So this is going to be a huge game for tonight's slate. Lots of ownership coming in on tonight on this Pittsburgh Penguins and Chicago Blackhawks side of things, specifically with the Penguins. So let's get to the overall charts here. Pittsburgh 1 grades out number 2 overall. DraftKings told you that they haven't changed the pricing. They're liars. They have to be, because McGroarty's up to $5,500, Aho 83, or Crosby 8,300, and then Brian Rust at 75. This is the second most expensive line on the slate, when lately we've been playing them as kind of like a get different value option. So these pricing is definitely a little bit different, but this is a tremendous spot for Pittsburgh 1. We've actually been playing them quite a bit as, like I said, a kind of get different spot because their underlying metrics have been so good. Now you get them in a spot where they have the 100% matchup score on the slate. And with McGroarty up there instead of Raquel, they really haven't missed a beat. The offensive numbers are simply tremendous. So this looks like a great spot to target the Pittsburgh Penguins. The, I guess, only downside is they are one of the highest, the fifth highest owned line on the slate at 21,300. The second line is projected to be the highest owned line on the slate. Koivunen at 3K presents really nice value here. He's playing like 17, 18, 19 minutes per game. And then you've got Malkin and Raquel, both around 10% owned. Very, very cheap, 14,800 to full stack them. Their matchup isn't quite as good as the top line, but it's unbelievable still. Going to see about 75% of their ice time against the middle six of the Blackhawks. Again, it doesn't really matter who you face from Chicago. They all kind of suck defensively. The offensive metrics here for this new look second line for the Penguins have been really, really good. The floor that you've been getting specifically from Malkin and Raquel over the last 3 or 4 games has been rock solid. Malkin's shooting a lot more lately than he was earlier in the season. Raquel has kind of been doing that all year. So great floor, solid ceiling here with Pittsburgh too as well. You know, it's interesting because if Pittsburgh 1 was the much higher owned line, I was like looking at Pittsburgh 2 as a great pivot spot. But now with Pittsburgh 2 seeing most majority of the ownership, I think Pittsburgh 1's kind of that interesting pivot spot here. Still seeing plenty of ownership, but at a lot more expensive price tag. So you're going to have to get a little funky with it. I like Pittsburgh 2 and 1 a lot tonight. I actually have Pittsburgh 2 in my head-to-head against you tonight. So where are you lying here with the Pittsburgh Penguins in this matchup? Obviously a really good one, but seeing plenty of ownership.
Yeah, certainly. I think this is a really interesting spot here for the Pittsburgh Penguins as a whole. This top six looks like they're in an incredible spot for sure. The pricing is pretty difficult on that top line for sure, $21,300. But we all saw what the Tampa Bay Lightning did last night, breaking open the slate at like $24,300. So as far as I'm concerned, I have no issue getting to the Pittsburgh Penguins here tonight. I kind of like the look of all three of these lines for kind of a variety of reasons. I mean, this top line, obviously, I think this is the line you're going to have the best ceiling with here. This second line looks like they're in a rock solid spot as well here. This third line, I think, offers a very, very interesting way to kind of get different here on this slate tonight. Connor Dewar has been really solid here over his last stretch of games. I mean, over his last 10, 4.3 DraftKings points per game has been his floor. Decent shot volume, blocked some shots. He scored a couple of goals. Kevin Hayes has cooled off from kind of the heater that he was on a little bit earlier this season here, but still decent enough shot volume there. And like this third line, they're not going to play a ton at 20% of the ice time here, but, the underlying metrics are pretty solid. For a deep tournament, if you need a really cheap line, I don't hate the idea at all of a Kevin Hayes, Connor Dewar mini stack. For me, I'm going to be munching the chalk on the Penguins here tonight. I'll probably be a little higher owned on Pittsburgh 1 than I am Pittsburgh 2 tonight. I just kind of like this ceiling a little bit better with what you're getting from this Crosby line.
The power play also in just a fantastic spot tonight. It is the number 4 power play advantage on the night. Their power play ranks 5th over the last 10 games up against the 29th ranked PK. So you get kind of a split here between the two top lines on that top power play unit. You've got Crosby and Russ from the top line. You've got Raquel and Koivunen from the second line, and then Grizzlick still up there on the PP1. Malkin and McGroarty from the top 6 on PP2 with Letang and Erik Karlsson. So a lot of ways to go tonight. If you're building around Pittsburgh 1, obviously pairing them with Grizzlick for the power play correlation is good. But at 5v5, they play a little bit more with Erik Karlsson. So again, another way to kind of get a little bit different if you wanted to would be pairing them potentially with Karlsson. And then Pittsburgh 2 plays a little bit more with Grizzlick and Letang. So you can kind of pick and choose there between the two. Grizzlick, obviously PP1 and the cheaper of the 3, probably that makes the most sense and the easiest to get to. But yeah, lots to like here about the Pittsburgh Penguins top 6. Lots to like about this top line. If we take a look here at the team, wrong. Team trend chart, the Chicago Blackhawks really just one of the worst defensive teams in the league right now. 3.08 expected goals against per 60 is awful at 5v5. The penalty kill has been bad, as I just pointed out, and the red hot Pittsburgh Penguins power play probably due for even more goal scoring. One of the highest expected goals for per 60 on the power play as of late. So really, really good stuff from the Penguins tonight. I expect them to be in a really nice smash spot tonight. I don't know how much of the Blackhawks I'm going to get to, but they also grade out really, really well. The matchups are good as the Penguins, are offensively. They're just as bad defensively. The problem is that the Blackhawks, underlying metrics are pretty terrible across the board. At 5v5 as a team, just 2.11 expected goals for per 60. So I don't think I'm going to get to this Blackhawks team a lot. Like they've been fairly productive as of late. Like Chicago 1 specifically, Mikheyev has been hot as of late. Bedard's been fine. Donato obviously has had massive games. They're just a little too expensive for me. There's just spots I like better on the slate, but they're seeing literally no ownership. I think they're a very interesting get different play, but probably not one that I'm going to spend a lot of time on. And then just one other guy to shout out. I've been mentioning him basically every show Chicago has played is Sam Renzel. I've been playing him as a great value option. He's continuing to do that. The shot volume is insane. He's up over 20 minutes. He's only $3,600. He is projected to be by far and away the highest owned defenseman on the slate for obvious reasons. Just such a good floor. Has shown off a decent ceiling at a really, really cheap price tag. So I'll have lots of Renzel tonight. I don't know how much I'm actually going to stack the Blackhawks, but you've been a little bit more comfortable stacking this team than I have as of late. Are you planning on getting back to Chicago 1 specifically tonight?
Yeah, I think I am here. In a 20 max here tonight, I think, like you said, they offer a really interesting pivot option. I mean, we're talking about a 10-game slate here where Chicago 1 is the 11th best line to target overall on the slate at legitimately no ownership whatsoever. If I'm building 20 lineups tonight, I have absolutely no issue throwing a dart at these guys in a lineup or maybe even 2 just to get a little bit extra different here. The floor has been solid for these guys as of late, and Ottawa and Mikheyev are continuing to score goals at great paces here. It feels like Bedard's kind of finding a little bit more offense here as of late as well. So I have no issue kind of getting to this top line here. The matchup looks great for them. The line stats obviously haven't been great here, but they are finding ways to score some goals. They're going to play a ton. In the charts we trust, man.
Yeah, I mean, they did just meet 2 days ago on Sunday, right? The Blackhawks won that game 3-1. That top line did the damage. You had 2 goals from Mikheyev. Bedard had an assist. Renzel had an assist, and Donato did nothing. But they just pulled this off a couple days ago, so it's not out of the realm of possibility to do it again at literally no ownership. So yeah, I think again, not a priority for me, not a single entry play, but again, 20 maxing, get different play, 5-10%. I think is a fine option tonight. For them on the power play tonight, it is pretty bleak. They just really struggle on the power play as of late, but the matchup's okay. Let's get to game number 3 tonight. You've got the New Jersey Devils and the Boston Bruins. The Devils are minus 251 home favorites, 3.4 implied total. I mean, just when you said the Boston Bruins seem to not care, they kind of started to score some goals again. They only won 1 game, but they beat the Hurricanes 5-1, like out of nowhere, and then promptly dropped 6-3 game their next outing against the Sabres. So not really sure which Boston Bruins team shows up tonight, but it doesn't look promising based on the implied total. The matchups don't paint a pretty picture either. One guy that's just, or 2 guys that have just played supremely well as of late is Morgan Geekie. It just had a massive week. He's actually the reason I got bounced in one of my season-long leagues. Like, he almost single-handedly destroyed me. So I'm quite distraught with Morgan Geekie, but he's been great. And then obviously David Pastrnak is just the guy. When you take a look here at the last 10 games, these two averaging 15 and 13 DraftKings points per game. The rest of the team literally doing nothing. So if you're planning on playing the Bruins tonight, this is probably the duo worth targeting. You could maybe include Elias Lindholm, who's 3rd on this list, also on that line. Overall, they don't grade out very well. 20th best at 18,600, seen about 4%. I don't think it's a great spot. It's probably not a line that I'm going to get to a lot. Their underlying metrics are okay. The matchup's not great. I just don't know how much I can, continue to trust Boston 1. So I probably won't get there. Zach, I'll see how you feel about them in a second. But New Jersey, matchups for them pretty good. First, second line, both in decent spots. Average matchup for the top line. Above average matchup for the second line. The metrics offensively here are pretty good as well. I just still think that this is kind of a difficult team to trust overall right now. Like when you take a look at the team trend chart here, this is a team that's not scoring a lot of goals at 5v5, but the power play has been fantastic. So can you trust them enough on a 10-game slate to just solely provide for you on the power play? We'll see. Like, they do have a good 5v5 matchup. There's obviously a Bruins team that's kind of out of it and don't, haven't been playing well defensively. So I think there's an avenue here to where the Devils make some sense. I mean, New Jersey 1 grades out 6th best overall at 19,100, really seeing quite modest ownership. So I think they're a fine play. New Jersey 2, about $3,000 cheaper, seeing limited ownership as well. I don't know how much I really trust Howell, Mercer, Meyer. I think I would rather go with the Hischier Bratton Nation combination. Good rhyme time there. But let's just take a look here at their power play units, because that's where they've been making most of their hay. You've got Hischier, you've got Bratt from that top line with Luke Hughes, and you got Mercer, Meyer from that second line. So you can kind of go whichever way you want with the Devils tonight. Which line do you prefer of these two? The more expensive or the cheaper option?
I think probably the top line. Again, it just kind of feels like there's a higher ceiling there with those guys. Any Devils builds that I'm going to have tonight are definitely going to be, based around the power play with Luke Hughes there with some correlation. I kind of agree with the ownership here in this game. Like, I'm comfortable throwing like 5%, at New Jersey 1, 5% at Boston 1 here. I really like the idea of this Morgan Geekie, David Pastrnak mini stack. Over the last 10 games, Boston 1's average DraftKings points per game actually ranks 3rd on the slate behind Toronto 1 and Toronto 2, who have been red hot here as of late. So I'm comfortable throwing a dart at them in a 20 max here tonight. Nothing for a single entry or anything like that, but I think they've been doing just fine here lately, and I think I'm willing to throw that dart. But I really don't have a ton of interest in this game in general. The Devils, they need to find a way to get a single point tonight, and they lock up their playoff spot. So at the very least, they're going to be hoping to force this one overtime.
Morgan Geekie's last 10 games, 7 goals, 9 assists, 16 points in his last 10. I mean, he's just been in fuego as of late. I just want to see what these two meetings. So they've actually, met once. this season back in January. The Devils won 5-1 that night. Who did the damage in that game? Nico Hischier goal and 2 assists. Timo Meier 2 assists. Dawson Mercer 2 goals. So basically everybody on that top power play unit, which again, if you take a look here from the New Jersey Devils side of things, it's been kind of the familiar names, right? Hischier's been great. Bratt, that from that top line have been really good. But Meier and Dawson Mercer have been solid as well. If you want to go for a slightly cheaper option, I think they make sense. Anybody on that top power play unit is really the one that I'm looking at. I would probably be mostly focused on New Jersey power play builds in this game. Third best power play advantage on the slate. Let's get to game number 4. The Montreal Canadiens and the Detroit Red Wings. The Red Wings are making a late surge here after basically squandering their playoff spot. They're trying to get back into it. Hopefully, for me as a Red Wings fan, not too little too late, but massive game tonight in Montreal. Going to be a super fun one to watch. In terms of the matchups, pretty bleak on the Montreal Canadiens side of things, which is hilarious because the Red Wings not that great defensively. But over their last 10 games, both these teams have cleaned it up a little bit, at least in 5v5 play. The penalty kill is still really poor for both sides. The Red Wings, though, basically just been unfortunate as of late. If you take a look at expected goals against, they have cleaned it up a little bit, just still not getting any goaltending on the PK. But both teams pretty solid 5v5 play offensively. Both probably due for a little bit more of positive regression here. It's going to be an interesting game. I think obviously this game has the look of one that could get high scoring, right? We've seen the Red Wings be in very high scoring games, especially when the power play is clicking. The Canadiens, same thing. The top line for Montreal is really the only one that I have any interest in tonight. We've seen kind of this new like the second half of the season, it's been a whole new Juraj Slafkovsky, and it's really elevated this line as a whole. The offensive metrics are great. Surprising defensive metrics here from the Detroit Red Wings, but I'm not buying into them too much. I still think that Montreal one's in an okay spot. They grade out 4th best, seeing a decent chunk of ownership, but Slafkovsky's still kind of always the guy that's being left by the wayside. But thankfully, they priced Suzuki back up to where he should be. When he was like 58, 5,900, whatever it was last week, like he was just the easiest click ever, and everybody did it. Now at 66 and 6,700, you got to think about it a little bit. The only thing that would caution me away from the Canadiens a little bit tonight is the fact that all of a sudden, I mean, he's just the streakiest goalie in the league, I'm pretty sure. Cam Talbot is just all of a sudden playing some of the best hockey in the entire NHL over his last 5 starts. 945 save percentage, a goals against average below 2. He's been spectacular, and really the only reason the Red Wings are still in the hunt here. So let's start with Montreal for you. I'm assuming that it's kind of Montreal one or bust. I know you normally have a little bit more interest in the third line as a cheap value, but given what looks like a pretty difficult matchup tonight, I'm assuming you're staying away.
Yeah, I think so. I think for me on this Montreal side of things tonight, it's pretty much that top line or bust. If I am building around Montreal one, I am going to be including Slafkovsky there. Just drawing like half the ownership as the other 2 guys on this line. And I can't really understand why. I think he's been really solid here as of late. Over his last 20 games, 1.3 goals per hour of ice time, 2.7 points, 7.7 shots on goal per hour. Those numbers are very similar to what Cole Caulfield is doing here on the exact same line. I think maybe on paper, Caulfield might have a higher ceiling overall as a player, but man, Slafkovsky's been really, really good. $5,900. You take a look at it, like they're the 4th best line on the slate overall to target here, and Slafkovsky's been solid as of late. So I have no issue full stacking. I'll be getting to like 10% of this line as a whole here, just because I have interest in building around them with Slafkovsky on it. I think it's a good way to kind of get yourself a little different, so to speak, in terms of what you're doing here with this top line for the Montreal Canadiens. Don't mind the idea of pairing him up with Lane Hutson as well here. Obviously, some power play correlation there. Not that the Montreal Canadiens penalty kill has been anything to write home about as of late, but Lane Hutson, man, take a look at these numbers lately. He's been rock solid. So I like this. I like this Montreal side of things here. Obviously, a bit of a tough matchup here in this spot, but I like him to kind of get on the board. I think it is worth noting too. You mentioned Cam Talbot, red hot as of late. He's been solid for the Red Wings as of late, but he's also been great against the Habs in his career. 13 games played, 9 wins, 4 shutouts, a 1.61 goals against average, and a 940 save percentage. He's been absolutely lights out. So
Love to hear that.
Yeah, definitely, right? So I think there's some risk here with this Montreal side of things, but in the same breath, 4th best line on the slate overall, I don't mind the idea of throwing a dart at him.
Yeah, and these games have been relatively high scoring in each of their 3 meetings this year. The Red Wings or the Canadiens won 4-3. The Canadiens won 5-1, and then the Detroit Red Wings won 4-2 in their 3 meetings. So the games have kind of gotten up there. Like obviously the Red Wings penalty kill hasn't been great this year, but the Habs power play has been really, really stinky as of late. But again, with this matchup, I think it makes a lot of sense just to get to Montreal 1. They fully correlate on the top power play unit. Lane Hutson, his price tag seemingly hasn't changed in 2 months. Like, I don't know why that never changes. It's bizarre. He's blocking a lot more shots lately too, plays a ton. I think Hudson is always kind of one of the best value options on the slate on the blue line. The Red Wings, on the other hand, power play continues to be solid, not as amazing as it was kind of in the middle of the year, but really good matchup here. 5th best power play advantage overall. They make it pretty easy for you. The matchup here for the top line is really good. They fully stacked up DeBrincat, Larkin, and Kane. They're going to run that line back at 21,000 or 20,100. They obviously fully correlate on that top power play unit, and they got a good 5v5 matchup, good power play matchup. I think this line makes a lot of sense. The underlying metrics of these three together, surprisingly bad, but with the matchup being what it is against the Suzuki line, I think they'll be fine tonight. And I think that this is a line that I'm going to have exposure to. Not seeing a lot of ownership at 4.5%. So certainly a line that I'm hoping to get to tonight, hoping that they go off. With the way the lineup's constructed, I think that's really the only line that I have a ton of interest in. Like, you could probably get to Detroit too as a decent value option here with Casper, Raymond, but I think I'm just going to probably stick with that top line and that top power play unit exposure. Maybe pair them up with Moritz Seider as well. So kind of top line or bust for both sides here, mostly due to the fact that they're their best lines, but they also fully correlate on what should be good power play advantages for both sides.
Yeah, I'll defer to you here on this Detroit side of things, but I do agree with you. I do think that top line is kind of the line to target here. All three of these guys have had, some success here as of late. Larkin, surprisingly, maybe a little bit too quiet here lately. This could definitely be a spot where he could get himself back into the mix. But pretty much Detroit 1 or bust for me here.
Yeah, I would have liked to see Larkin coming in a little bit hotter, but Kane and DeBrincat both playing extremely well. Both over 10 DraftKings points per game, both obviously solid floors. Larkin's shot volume is really curious here. Like, in the second half of the season, it's really dried up. He was a guy that was like 4 shots a game earlier in the year, and now it's 1.7. I don't know if he's got something affecting him here, and that's what's causing it. It is a bit of a cause for concern as a Red Wings fan and as somebody trying to pay $6,900 for him tonight. I'm a little surprised this line's price tag overall, and I'm hoping that helps keep the ownership down because I do think it is a pretty good spot. Okay, the Florida Panthers will host the Toronto Maple Leafs. Is this actually the betting line right now? It can't be, because that's the craziest thing ever if it is. Let me just double check that's correct. Yeah, they're minus 160. Toronto opened at minus 120 this morning, so that's an 80-cent move. Obviously, the betting market was anticipating that the Panthers were going to be without some bodies again. Not the case. Barkov's back. Reinhardt's back. Forsling's back. And Anthony Solars is not starting. So you could see why there would be a massive market move, but that seems a little much. But especially given the way the Panthers have played as of late and the way that the Toronto Maple Leafs have played as of late, over their last 10 games, Florida scored 1.22 goals for per 60. Obviously, they're due for some positive regression. Just 4.3 shooting percentage during that time is insane. But the Leafs have been just incredible on the power play. Again, shooting 35%. Don't know how sustainable it is, but decent power play matchup. If you take a look at it here, they have the number 1 matchup overall tonight. They have the number 1 power play. This is a Panthers team that's pretty undisciplined. So despite the massive market move, I've got quite a healthy amount of interest in Toronto tonight, specifically because, like, around that power play, and specifically because they're seeing literally no ownership. Now, I mentioned that the Panthers have struggled offensively. They've been very good defensively, super, super good. I wouldn't be surprised. We've seen these two teams meet a couple times, right? And I feel like for the most part, they've been pretty tight checking, pretty low scoring. I would imagine we'll see a lot of the same tonight. So let's see here. They've met 3 times this year. The Panthers won 5-1, the Panthers won 3-2, and then the Leafs won 3-2 just about a week ago, under a week ago. So I would imagine we're going to see a similar game tonight, don't you? Like, probably a 3-2 type hockey game that could go either way. So I don't have an overwhelming amount of interest in this game other than just getting some Toronto exposure because they're so low owned and they are scoring a ton, specifically on the power play. So, I don't mind at 19,000 getting to Toronto 2. I probably prefer Toronto 2 over Toronto 1 just because you save a little bit of salary, but don't mind getting to Toronto 1 either. They're super cheap. Super low owned. Definitely not cheap. On the Florida side of things, I just don't know where to go here. They're just not scoring enough at 5v5 for me to really have strong interest. The second line without Sam Bennett makes me a little bit nervous, but like in the short amount of time, very small sample size that we've seen Luostarinen, Lundell, and Marchand together, it has been really impressive. So I don't mind them as a dart throw at 13,000. I would probably play them at 13,000 more than I'll play the top line at 20,500. What are your thoughts here with Florida and Toronto?
I think this is a super interesting game for a lot of reasons. I think I'm going to have to tap the sign here when it comes to the Toronto Maple Leafs. My rule with the Maple Leafs is that when I think they are too chalky or when they are chalky, I don't play them or I play under the field on them. When I think they're really low owned, which they are here tonight, I'm definitely interested in getting to them. To me, I think Toronto 1 is probably one of my favorite lines on the slate as a whole. These three guys, Matthew Knies, Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, on fire as of late, specifically Austin Matthews, averaging 17.7 DraftKings points per game over his last 10. He's been on absolute fire right now. His floor has been rock solid. This line as a whole have the highest combined DraftKings average over their last 10 games and the highest floor. So that's essentially just looking at shot and block volume. So these guys have been getting it done. Obviously, the matchup score is absolutely abysmal here for the Toronto Maple Leafs top line. And really for that second line too. Like it's a pretty ugly matchup score here for sure. But these guys have had success against the Panthers in their careers, man. Like Matthews, 15 goals, 26 points, 28 games played. Mitch Marner, 14 goals, 38 points in 29 games. I have no issue getting up over the field here on the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'll probably be around 10% on this top line, 10% on this second line as well. With Bobby McMahon there, this is the way we like to kind of target this second line when he's there. I mean, Tavares and Nylander have held down the fort so well on this second line all season long. And I think McMahon is an interesting player there at $4,700. To me, I've got a ton of interest on this Toronto side. In the same breath, I've also got some interest in getting to the Panthers, not necessarily because I feel the greatest about them or anything like that, but Joseph Woll is far and away the highest owned goaltender on the slate tonight. He's projecting for like 15% ownership, which is pretty much double what any other goaltender is here on this slate tonight. We've seen the Panthers have success going up against the Leafs in the past. Woll has played 2 games against Florida in his career, 1 win, 246 goals against average and a 930 save percentage, but that's a pretty small sample size here. And the Panthers are pretty heavy favorites in the betting market here. I kind of like getting to some Bobrovsky in the crease. I kind of like getting to some of this top line for the Panthers. My boy Jesse Puljujarvi down there on that third line too. Brock, I just about played him in our DFO head-to-head today. I was this close, but I decided to take him out. I think this is a super interesting game here tonight. Like I got a lot of interest in this one.
Yeah, with Barkov out for a few games, then Bennett out for a couple games. Last 4 games for Anton Lundell, he's averaged close to 20 minutes a night. So I just wanted to get back to that second line. I think that they provide kind of, with the increased minutes and what we've seen from them on a small sample size. Again, at $13,000, I think they're kind of an interesting punt option here at sub 5%, sub 4%. So if Lundell's up there on 20 minutes again tonight, I think he's interesting. And the shot volume's really perked up during this time. I mean, let's go to his last 7 games. He has 47 shot attempts, 6.7 shot attempts per game during that stretch, which is, not a guy or a line that typically has a good floor. But right now, it's been kind of working out for them as of late. Let's get to the Buffalo Sabres and the Carolina Hurricanes. The Hurricanes are minus 227. Road favorites, 3.8 implied total for them, 2.5 implied total for the Buffalo Sabres. In terms of the matchups here, really good matchups for, not really good, but pretty good matchups for the top line and the third line of the Hurricanes. Zach, I think I'm going to be able to talk you into some Carolina 3. I know that's usually not that difficult, but 32% of their ice time is going to be coming against Buffalo 2. Wait till you see these defensive metrics. Wow. Pretty bad. pretty bad. Carolina 3 is going to get Andrei Svechnikov tonight, so it's going to be Svechnikov, Stahl, and Martinook. So if you want to take a punt off on them, I don't mind them this evening with that really nice matchup. They're going to see, again, 32% of their ice time projected to come against that Buffalo second line, which is just horrendous defensively. The Sabres as a whole, the other three lines pretty decent defensively, but I still like getting back to Carolina 1. These offensive metrics have been great. We've been calling for Jackson Blake to start to see some positive regression. We have as of late. It's finally happening. They still grade out third best overall tonight. 19,400, a very affordable price tag. Aho and Larkin feel pretty similar, right? Both very expensive, but really not doing enough for that price tag as of late. But I still think are good enough plays this evening. I feel a little bit more confident in Aho than I do Larkin right now. But Jarvis has been unbelievable lately. We mentioned the floor you get from Blake. The fact that pucks are actually going in now helps. The power play matchup in this one is pretty good as well. Second best power play advantage. So good 5v5 matchup, good power play matchup. They fully correlate on that top power play unit as well. So yeah, I'm not going to hesitate at all to get back to Carolina 1 tonight. And they're not really seeing that much ownership, right? I mean, among our top 5 lines, they are the lowest owned of the top 5. And if we take a look at kind of overall ownership, they are 8th highest owned line on the slate. So really like the spot for Carolina 1. I might sprinkle in some Carolina 3 given the matchup that they've got. On the Buffalo Sabres side of thing, I think it's kind of difficult to get there. I just don't usually stack against the Carolina Hurricanes as a team that plays very, very well defensively. Still just 2.24 expected goals against per 60. Really good on the penalty kill. So I don't think I'm going to get to Buffalo, especially considering they have scored 1.22 goals above expected at 5v5 over the last 10.
Well, you talked me into it, Brock. 100% Carolina 3 here tonight for me. Joking aside, they do look like they're in a great spot here. Svechnikov, really interesting, coming in at $4,800 tonight. Granted, he's missed pretty much the last month due to injury. I went and looked back at it before he was hurt. He was in like the high 6,700s. He was like $6,700, $6,500 before he was injured. At $4,800, and considering the fact that he has 2 goals and 14 points in 13 games played against the Sabres in his career, I think he looks like a tremendous play here on this slate tonight. Projection isn't necessarily the strongest individually or anything like that, but this looks like a great spot for that third line. So count me in here. Got a lot of interest in them for sure. I'll be getting back to it with this top line as well. Jackson Blake, again, heating up here, looking really solid as of late. I think Buffalo 1 is kind of an interesting play here tonight. They're grading out as the 13th best line to target on the slate. Obviously, the Sabres as a whole have been on this absolute shooting heater, as you mentioned, with how many goals they're scoring above expected here as of late. Their matchup is really interesting tonight. They're projected to see 37% of their ice time going up against the Carolina Hurricanes second line, who are absolutely abysmal defensively, 4.5 goals against per hour of ice time. I actually almost played a Coolidge Benson mini stack in our DFO head-to-head tonight. Like, they were one of the guys that I was kind of looking at here. Obviously, a super get different, really low-owned play. They're probably going to need to find a way to get on the board with a goal or two here to really pay off. But given that matchup score, I think they're a really interesting deep field play tonight.
Yeah, I mean, the price tag is super, super affordable. Kulik, just 4,300. Benson, 3,800. Obviously, Thompson, I mean, I think still fairly priced at 7,400. In their last 10 games, this team, 13.7 DraftKings points per game, leading the way, Tage Thompson. But Kulich been pretty solid. If we take a look at just kind of the value here that you'd get, Kulich, and where's Benson? Am I missing him entirely? I mean, he's been pretty quiet. No goals in his last 9. But yeah, the price tag is there. I don't mind it. You pointed out a really, really interesting matchup. If you're gonna target the Hurricanes, it's when they're on the road and they can't control those matchups. And tonight, I think it makes a little bit of sense. Let's get to the Dallas Stars and the Vancouver Canucks. I'm gonna just keep bringing up this team trend chart when we talk about the Dallas Stars, because it's getting worse. 3.24 expected goals against per 60 at 5v5 over the last 10 it's the worst mark on the entire slate. I'm not going to quote myself here, but I'm assuming, I mean, I can just look right here. I'm assuming it's the worst mark in the entire league. Yeah, it is. Not surprising. It's horrific. I mean, somehow still getting a 952 save percentage over the last 10. They seem like they're in some trouble here at 5v5. They're still pretty good on the PK. The Canucks have been better. I just don't know, how to buy in right now. I want to buy into the Canucks in this matchup, but I just don't know if I can get there. The underlying metrics here are pretty poor for the 5v5 offense here for the Canucks. And that's kind of what's scaring me away, right? We've seen Suter have some success and some of these lines scoring, but they're just not generating enough. And it doesn't seem overly sustainable, even in a good matchup. And even though the Stars continue to give up glorious scoring chance night after night, they're still not giving up many goals again. So, when you take a look at the big table here, like Vancouver 1 grades out 21st. They're not seeing much ownership. I think as a completely gets different option, I think there's reason to consider it. But I just don't know if I'm going to get there a lot, just given the fact that Dallas, despite kind of their warts, has still managed to do an okay job keeping the puck out of their net. Dallas wants $21,000, just 3% ownership. They're fine, right? They've been good enough. They're scoring 4.0 goals, 4 per 60, not generating as much as you might imagine. The Canucks are good enough defensively. I just don't see this game being crazy high scoring. Maybe that's the kiss of death, but I don't think I'm going to have a lot of ownership here whatsoever. And the field feels exactly the same. Let me just see in terms of the Dallas Stars. Yeah, like no ownership coming in, and Vancouver like somehow less. So the field doesn't feel like they're getting there. I don't really feel like I'm getting there. Are you going to try to use this game as a get different spot?
I don't know. Probably not a whole lot. I mean, I think I've got some interest here in Dallas 1. Like these guys have been so good as of late. The offensive numbers have been just tremendous for them. So I think I've got some interest in kind of sprinkling in on them. This Vancouver side of things, like I'm more comfortable playing them on smaller slates. I don't think I can get there necessarily tonight. I mean, if I do, anything that I do is certainly going to be through Quinn Hughes as kind of the key part of that. So, maybe a Quinn Hughes, Brock Besser mini stack or something like that. I don't hate that idea here tonight on this slate whatsoever. Like I wonder how much, just from like a pure hockey perspective, the Dallas Stars are kind of regretting not addressing this blue line more seriously than by just acquiring Cody Ceci. I mean, they watched Cody Ceci last year in the Western Conference Finals when Ceci was with the Edmonton Oilers. He was terrible in that series. So I don't really know why they felt that he was a guy who was really going to give him a boost. But it's been pretty bleak on that blue line since Miro Heiskanen has left. And man, the goaltending has just continuously bailed out the Dallas Stars here. Like Casey DeSmith, since Heiskanen has been out, has a .930 save percentage. Like he's not playing a lot, but like he has been just absolutely slamming the door. So I don't hate the idea at all of going with Casey DeSmith in the crease tonight. But that's probably where I'm at on this game.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, right? Like DeSmith, if he can continue to play well, like he's going to face a ton of volume tonight. And if he just shuts the door yet again, he could be the optimal play. You brought up Quinn Hughes. He's just $6,500 tonight. Probably the cheapest he's been all year, I would imagine. One of the cheapest. So yeah, I don't mind. Like I think Vancouver is a kind of an interesting, like get different, but also cheap, right? Like, I mean, Suter's only what, 4,900, Besser's like 5,500, 50. Yeah, 50, I nailed both of those. DeBrusk has been solid. I don't know where he is here. He's 5,000. So I don't mind them if maybe DeSmith has an off night. Like the Stars are extremely leaky right now. Okay, Nashville and the Islanders. I mean 2.8 and 2.9 implied total. Matchups are okay on both sides. I just don't think I'm going to get to this game, if I'm being honest. Like the matchups are good. The underlying metrics are good, but I just don't really see this game being wide open. In terms of like the overall charts, New York 1 grades out the best at 12th at 17,800, seeing about 5% ownership. Nashville 1 comes in at 14,300, 3% ownership. Nashville 2 comes in at 16,700 and 4% ownership. So they're seeing some ownership, not a lot. I just don't think that this game's really for me. How about you?
Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot of interest here. I'll probably sprinkle in a little bit of this Islanders top line. They've had a really solid floor as of late. Yeah. If I was going to play Nashville, it'd probably be through Nashville too. But like these lines are disgusting. Like they are spread right out and they are really, really gross, I think, to get to here. So yeah, pretty minimal interest in this game. Might have like 10% total ownership in it.
Yeah, like the two that I would consider would be like a Forsberg Stamkos mini stack, but Forsberg 7,700, Stamkos 6,300. I just don't think I'm going to get there in this case. I just want to look up what the Islanders have been doing as of late. I'm assuming it's just all that top line still. Yeah, but even still, just 10.5 DraftKings points per game for Horvat. Lee's down to 9.2, Palmieri 8.3. I mean, they've been solid, playing a lot too. Like, I don't mind it, but I just don't think it's going to end up being for me tonight. Teams of the team trends here. Both teams. I mean, the Islanders have been pretty good offensively, but I just don't foresee it being a slate-breaking play. And then obviously the Predators continue to suck offensively in terms of the power play. The Islanders have the 8th best power play advantage on the night, but still nothing really to write home about. Let's get 2 more games to go here. We've got Utah facing the Kraken on the second half of back-to-back. The Kraken have been really good their last couple of games. They've won me some money in the betting market, and I am appreciative of that. But a tough spot here going into Utah second half of a back-to-back. The Utah Hockey Club still, though, minus 231 feels a little bit stretched out, but if Philip Grubauer gets to start, it kind of makes sense, I guess. But Utah really, man, I keep clicking the wrong thing. Really haven't had it going lately, but it does seem like they are due. Just 0.73 goals scored below expected at per 60 at 5v5 as of late. The real issue for them is the power play is dried up as of late. But there does look like there's some room for positive regression here on the Utah side of things. Completely opposite story on the Seattle side of things, where they're 0.7 goals scored above expected as of late. They're still struggling a little bit defensively. PK's okay. Utah, man, I mean, like, I want to get there. They grade out really well. It's the highest event game of the night. When you take a look at the raw projections, I mean, some of the best value forwards on the entire slate. Dylan Guenther, 6,100. Clayton Keller, 6,500. Nick Schmaltz, 5,300. They grade out as 3 of the best 6 forwards on the entire slate. So really, really interested in Utah tonight. When you take a look at the underlying metrics, pretty good across the board, right? A lot to like here with both the first and second line. So when we take a look at the big board, Utah 1 grades out at the best line in this game at 15th, seeing 10% ownership. Like, we talked about wanting to play Keller, Cooley, and Guenther when the opportunity arose with a good matchup, and we finally get it tonight. I'm going to get there. I would have liked to see them a little bit lower owned, but the spot makes too much sense to kind of avoid. Utah 1 would definitely be my preferred choice. I think Utah 2 represents a really nice value option at minimal ownership. Hayton just 4,000, Schmaltz just 5,300, Yamamoto minimum price. I think, like, if you're looking for a value option, they're among the best in my opinion tonight. So I like this Utah side of things a lot. I think that, Seattle has looked good defensively last couple games. I don't know how long that's going to last. Over their last 10, they still grade out pretty poorly. So I'm going to get to Utah 1 quite a bit tonight. Utah 2 is a really interesting value if you're stacking like Pittsburgh 1 or a line that's like $21,000 like that. What is your thoughts here on Utah before we get to the Kraken?
Yeah, I definitely think I'm okay getting back to the Utah Hockey Club here tonight. Haven't been playing them a ton as of late, but man, like you said, they're absolutely due. And this Kraken, they've been on an absolute heater as of late. Similarly to how we talked about the St. Louis Blues with that 12-game winning streak the other night, like the bubble's got to burst on them at some point here, and I could see that happening here tonight for sure. So I like the Utah side of this game. I'll probably be meeting the field on both the top line and the second line here. I have a Nick Schmaltz, Kyler Yamamoto mini stack in our DFO head-to-head here tonight. So hopefully they can come up clutch for me because I need to get an 8-game winning streak going here.
Worth mentioning, these two teams have met twice this year, and Utah has lost both of those games. 5-2 for Seattle the first game, and 4-2 in the second game. So, I mean, maybe Seattle does stay hot. Do you have any interest in getting to Seattle? I mean, they grade out really, really poorly. The third line grades out the best. I mean, Jared McCann's been great at 5,700. I think he's a decent option tonight. Jaden Schwartz has been great at 4,300, not seeing much ownership. I don't mind those two individually, but and then obviously we talk about Dunn and Montour a lot, but full stacking the Kraken is probably not for me tonight. How about you?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think those guys are both fine one-offs. Solid floors. They've been hitting their ceilings really well as of late. That's probably the lone interest I got on the Seattle side from the forward group. Probably can talk me into some of these blue liners. Adam Larson, he's been given a really solid floor here as of late, so I think he could be an interesting defensive play here.
I mean, if we look at value over their last 10 games, Jared McCann and Jaden Schwartz at 57 and 4,300, 2 of the best, and Adam Larson, as you just mentioned as well. Not surprised to see Morgan Geekie up there either. Andre Burakovsky's been solid too, 11 points in his last 10 games, coming in at just $3,500. So there's some cheap options here in Seattle if you think they can stay hot. I don't think it's the worst play. I mean, Utah is still just okay defensively. So yeah, if Seattle stays hot tonight, they are going to be super, super low. The slate closes out with the Colorado Avalanche and the Vegas Golden Knights. Very exciting hockey game this evening. Despite a pretty difficult matchup tonight, obviously 17.7 on the matchup score here for Colorado 1. They still grade out as the number one line of target on the entire slate. They are also still projected for 12.4% ownership, which is the second highest on the entire slate. Obviously, Akira Schmid getting the start for Vegas, I think, helps Colorado's case tonight, right? Like Aiden Hill's been tremendous for the most part as of late. So just avoiding him helps. And the underlying metrics here continue to just be ridiculous for Colorado 1. Really the only line doing anything for the Avs right now. You've got Lehkonen, you've got Nichushkin, and obviously you have McKinnon all together. So with all of their injuries, it's really thinned out this lineup, but they've not hesitated to just give Nathan McKinnon the best wingers that are at their disposal with Nichushkin and Lehkonen. So when you look at the rest of this lineup, I think it represents an opportunity for value in easier matchups. This just isn't that. So love targeting that top line. They obviously correlate with Nichushkin and McKinnon on that top power play unit. They've left Lehkonen on that second unit, but that's something that could easily change, in one instance. So I like Colorado 1 a lot tonight. I wish they were a little bit lower on. The matchup's not great, but it's so difficult to ignore these underlying metrics. So let's start with the Avs. I'm assuming you're not getting to the depth, but how much Colorado 1 are you planning on getting tonight? Because they are still pretty high owned in a fairly difficult matchup.
Yes. Yeah,
just yes.
Just yes. 15% Colorado 1 feels pretty easy to get to for me here tonight. And that's kind of all I think I'm going to get to in this game, to be totally honest with you. It's pretty much Colorado 1 or bust for me here tonight. I don't feel great about this Vegas side on a pretty regular basis. The lines, they're fine. I just don't really know if I can get there myself. Maybe you can talk me into some Vegas, but I think my interest pretty much is solely in that top line. Just been so good as of late.
Yeah, and Devon Taves has been excellent too, just $4,500. If you can't get up to Makar, it's worth mentioning. Schmidt obviously was pretty good in Calgary in his first start of the season, but facing a different beast in the Avs tonight. The power play advantage is far from ideal. Fourth best power play for the Avs, fifth best penalty kill for the Golden Knights. But I agree, even with a good power play here, the Golden Knights obviously playing pretty well. They're just a very difficult team to target overall. I've had a hard time trying to exactly kind of figure out. But if you want kind of one saving grace or something to look to about fading Colorado 1 tonight, it's that this Vegas team's been just absolutely locked down defensively at 5v5 and on the PK as of late. So if they can insulate Schmid well, I think that there's a chance for this Colorado 1 chalk to flop. So if you're single entering and fading them, I think there's certainly a path for it to not work out. I think the likelihood of it working out increases with me playing them. I just seemingly somehow, literally the best line in hockey, can't get the Avs right. But they're just too easy to get to at 20,200. They're just way cheaper than they have been, and they're just a little too easy to click on. But I agree. Vegas, obviously, where do you find Vegas 1? 28th? Pretty bad. Power play matchup looks good. The Avs still really good at 5v5, really good in the PK as well. So I'm not interested in the Vegas Golden Knights either. Okay, let's get to the defenseman. Do you want to kick it off? I'm just going to say Sam Renzel, and then you take it from here.
Yeah, took the words right out of my mouth there. He looks like a great play here tonight at $3,600, seeing a ton of ownership, 20.5%. So, be wary of that. But I think there's some interesting pivot options right around him at a similar price point here. Nick Blankenberg at $3,500 looks like a decent play. Alexander Carrier at $3,700. I think he's a guy that I can get behind here on this slate as well. Justin Barron looks decent around that same price point. There's some 5K defensemen that look like they're pretty solid plays here tonight, right? Thomas Chabot, Sergachev, Carlson, Letang, Hughes. I really like the look of Hughes tonight. I think he's a really interesting play on that Devils power play there. Renzel certainly looks great. Michael Kesselring popping, should see a little more ice time here tonight at $2,600 for a real cheap guy. And then Mark Del Gaizo sliding his way back into our hearts.
Yeah, I have Kesselring projected to skate on the top pair with Mikhail Sergachev tonight with John Marino out. It's not 100% lock, but that's a spot he's played plenty this season, and I think it makes the most sense for their D pair. So at $2,600, he's a guy that could end up seeing a little bit more power play time. I just want to see Who are cheap power play one quarterbacks tonight? So you got Sergachev 53, Hughes 5K, Renzel $3,600, Goss's Bear 4,800, Blankenberg 3,500, and Grizzly 4,100 would be the top guys. Obviously Vince Dunn there too, but that's kind of a 1A 1B situation between the pipes. Let's get to the goalies, sort by projections, make it a little bit bigger. Casey Smith, not surprising, projected to see a lot of volume tonight. Number one goalie overall. Obviously, a good matchup here for Markstrom. Not going to see a ton of volume. Probably a little bit too difficult for me to trust. Probably won't get there a ton. Kachekov's been a little bit shaky as of late. I think the Sabres present a difficult enough matchup that I probably stay away a little bit there. Jari, I think, has been good enough. The Blackhawks are pretty bad. I think I like him more than I like Markstrom and Kachekov, but still, I probably prefer to just get down to Sorokin here at $7,900. The ownership on Wool is kind of outrageous. Like, he grades out well. I project to see a lot of volume. I think the play makes sense, but at that ownership, I just like that's the same thing as we saw as Vasilevsky last night. He just does not feel as nearly as good of a play. So yeah, goalies are kind of gross tonight, man. Like I had a hard time even picking one for my head-to-head lineup. I went with Sorokin. I think Cam Talbot makes a lot of sense at 7,600 if they can win that game. He's been so good as of late. And Noonan's okay at 7,500. Like, I think I'm going to be doing a lot of paying down tonight, but most of these options feel pretty tough. So don't mind a Smith, like Sorokin, Montembeault, Bobrovsky, Talbot, like living in that kind of 7K range for me. How about you?
Yeah, I don't mind that range at all. I think for me, like, I'm comfortable paying up here for some of these guys tonight. Like, I think Casey DeSmith is a fine play here on this slate tonight. I think Ilya Sorokin at $7,900 is a really good option. Vamilka at 8K, I can get behind him.
Yeah, Vamilka's the other guy. Him and Sorokin, I was kind of tossing and turning between. Like, if Seattle does see that regression we're expecting, obviously he makes a ton of sense. He's been solid.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And I think Cam Talbot's a really interesting play here on this slate as well. At $7,600 for some of the reasons that I mentioned earlier. That's probably where I'm going to be living in kind of that range of those guys tonight.
Any interest in James Reimer? He's been red hot. Going to see a ton of volume. $7,100.
Really
no
good
ownership.
Different play. Hey, 921 save percentage in 22 career games against the Carolina Hurricanes.
There you have it. Highest owned goalies tonight: Wool, Sorokin, Bobrovsky, Vamilka, DeSmith, Montembeault, Noonan, Schmidt, Forsberg, Yari, rounding out the top 10. Let's get today's hat trick pick challenge. If you want to participate in today's hat trick pick challenge, all you got to do is drop your hat trick pick in the comment section of the video on YouTube, not the live chat. If your player scores a hat trick, we'll get you a $25 gift card to nationgear.ca. Pick up some DFO swag. If you submit a hat trick pick and your player doesn't score a hat trick, but somebody else scores a hat trick that nobody picked, we'll raffle it off to anybody that submitted a pick. So all you got to do, kind of got a double chance here if you submit one hat trick pick. Zach, it's been the first time in a long time. You won yesterday's head-to-head. You get to go first today's hat trick pick. Who are you taking?
Feels great. Thank you for the honors. Austin Matthews.
Very nice. I'm going to go a little bit off the board here. Give me Ricard Raquel. Need him in season long, so I'm hoping that Pittsburgh 2 comes through. A little bit chalky tonight, but I'll go with Ricard Raquel. So off the board in terms of a hat trick pick, not off the board in terms of DFS. He is chalky. Let's get today's daily face-off, our head-to-head lineup challenge. Zach, 8 shows left, 8 wins needed. Is this going to get you across the board tonight? Who do you got?
Well, I sure as hell hope so. That's the reason that I build these lineups. So hopefully they can get it done. Wanted that Pittsburgh 100% matchup score. So we got a Crosby Russ mini stack. I kind of wanted to try and build a little bit of a different lineup here tonight. I think I did so pretty successfully.
I'd say
Austin Matthews at $9,200. Like, I think he's been really great as of late. I like him a lot tonight. Mentioned that Utah 2 mini stack with a little correlation with Michael Kesselring there. One-off Pierre Engvall. That Islanders third line, I still think they're kind of an interesting play here tonight. Eat some chalk on Sam Rizal, and then a little more chalk with Joseph Wall in the crease.
I went with this one's pretty easy. Full Pittsburgh 2-stack, Malkin, Raquel, Koivunen, with Grizzly on that power play correlation with Raquel and Koivunen. And then I went with a full Carolina 1-stack, Aho, Blake, Jarvis. I went off Sam Rinzel, Sorokin between the pipes. Before we go, I got one question here from Peter Porker. Both of your favorite stacks for GPP tonight. I think mine's probably Carolina 1. They grade out tremendously well. Really nice matchup. Not seeing a lot of ownership. So, considering ownership here, my favorite would probably be Carolina 1 and then maybe Toronto 2 as kind of those like lower owned plays that grade out just tremendously well. How about you, Zach?
Yeah, for me, I think, my favorite play is probably Pittsburgh 1. That 100% matchup looks really appetizing tonight. They've been great as of late. And I'm really in on Toronto 1 here tonight as well. I think they're a really interesting low-owned play.
Yeah, Pittsburgh 1, man. Like if tonight, like we've been getting them right in not obvious spots. If they flop tonight, I'm gonna be shocked. Because 100% matchup score. I mean, it usually hits. So tonight should be a big night for Pittsburgh 1. And honestly, I mean, obviously the price tag is what the price tag is. It's gonna help keep their ownership down a little bit. I thought for sure they'd be the highest line on the slate, but at that price tag, I can see why. Like McGroarty at 5,500 is a bit of a tough click. He's fine. He's been solid enough, but at 5,500, he starts to become like that guy. Like, do I click on him for sure? And if I'm building around Pittsburgh 1, I'm going to click on him and just take the kind of ownership discount that you get by full stacking them, because Rust and Crosby together as a mini still seeing plenty of ownership. But that's going to do it for this edition of the DFO DFS report. Before we go, just a quick shout out to our friends at rotogrinders.com for providing projected ownership for today's show. Really appreciate them for that. If you want to get $20 off your first month of Rotogrinders Premium, you can do so for any of their sports, NHL, NBA, MLB, whatever you want. You get $20 off your first month of Rotogrinders Premium by clicking the link in the description of the video on YouTube. Also in the description is the link to our DFO DFS Discord if you want to join the Discord server. It's growing every day. Provide a lot of late breaking news and warm-ups and stuff. Obviously, kind of running low on games this season, but we'll be chatting throughout the playoffs as well. We also have channels for different sports if you want to kind of bounce some ideas. So, hey, maybe you get Rotogrinders Premium, $20 off your first month. You come in, join the MLB DFS Discord channel that we got going there, and win some money in other sports as well. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please smash that like button if you're watching on YouTube. We will see you back here tomorrow, same time, same place. Until then, cheers.
Cheers.